Welcome to Beyond Ocean and Maine, MCM's news magazine program. I'm Robert Goitis.
And I'm Ivana Osborne.
The Scituate Salt Cave is a new wellness center based out of Scituate Harbor that offers a unique form of therapy.
MCM was lucky enough to get an inside look at the cave, as well as what it provides to those who visit.
Scituate Salt Cave is a wellness center, and we offer primarily something called halotherapy, which folks come in for a 45-minute treatment where they sit in our beautiful caves, they relax, sometimes they fall asleep, they listen to a guided meditation, and some really beautiful bilateral music. And we infuse pharmaceutical-grade salt into the space, and that's what is getting deep into their lungs. It's helping them breathe easier and deeper. These folks will come in for all kinds of things. They might have seasonal allergies, especially this time of year. A lot of asthmatics will come in. We see things more serious like COPD, emphysema. A lot of COVID long haulers will seek out this therapy. So the respiratory benefit is amazing. But on top of that, we also see folks that just need to rest. They need to unplug for 45 minutes and take some time for themselves. It's funny, when people walk through the door, they always think, am I going down into a basement? Am I going into a real cave? No, this is a completely handcrafted cave. We worked with a cave designer. They exist. This amazing woman who helped us design the caves. She also helped us source the 30,000 pounds of Himalayan salt that we needed. Most of it came from Pakistan. The beautiful boulders that you see came from Pakistan. The bricks all came from Tibet, from the monks.
I think the general effect that the Scituate Salt Cave has had on me has been really impactful. I mean, honestly, I'm a more open person. I'm a more warm person. I'm a more peaceful person. I think I can weather the storms a little bit better. And I also think it's made me a little bit more outgoing because I can connect with other people in this space. And I've met a lot of people I probably wouldn't have met otherwise.
So I honestly had no concept of what a salt cave was prior to its opening. And then when I saw the space, I just completely fell in love. And I've really kind of been a part of it, I guess, from the beginning. So it's just been such a blessing to be surrounded by like-minded people who really all share this ideal of helping and healing.
So I think the most immediate effect is this sense of calm. When people come in, even when they cross the threshold of our space, they say that it smells really nice and it's really calming. But after the 45-minute session, everybody says that they can breathe easier, and that whether that's coming from a respiratory impairment that they had or just being able to relax and breathe easier is equally important.
I liken it to when you have been at the beach for a few hours and you're like, okay, I can finally just let go. Or when you get far enough into the woods that you can just breathe again, I notice that every time I step into that cave. So no matter what we're doing, that creates such a magical container for the work that we do. Having this central location where people can walk in, they don't feel like they're just, messaging someone over the internet that they don't know. There's this beautiful sense of community and a face-to-face interaction that I just appreciate so much. So I just loved some of the feedback we got around the magic that is the cave. We try to make sure we do a meditation to start in there, and I find that really creates that sense of community where we're all experiencing something really unique together.
We wanted to help heal our personal community. We knew that we'd have an impact in a small way with our friends and neighbors and family, but it's been just such a touch to our heart to see how folks have come from all over. We see people that come to Scituate, they stay at the hotel, they make a whole weekend out of it. They oftentimes will visit the cave, shop, all because we intrigued them enough to come to our town. I think my favorite thing about the Scituate Salt Cave is when people see the space for the very, very first time. They are wowed. They oftentimes can't believe what they're seeing. And I always hear, I didn't know what to expect, but I certainly wasn't expecting this. We've had people get emotional. We've had people that have just wide-eyed walked into the space and come out feeling amazing. I always ask when somebody leaves the cave, how do you feel? How are you feeling after your session? And I love their responses. I love what they say. I love that they say that they feel really good and they're so happy and they can't wait to come back. They can't wait to bring this friend or this family member. It makes me really happy and warms my heart, and I take a lot of pride in the fact that they want to share it with others. There's nothing better than that,
It's a place for people to gather. It's a safe space for people to gather. It's a beautiful space for people to gather, to have a place where you can come together with other people who are just looking for the same thing you are, which is could be community, could be relaxation, could be peace, maybe other things I'm not thinking of. To have a home base for that, I think is invaluable to the community.
Being, someone who grew up here in Scituate, it's almost funny to see that we actually have such an incredible community here. And walking into the cave, you just feel it. I've sat with people who just said, I can't believe a place like this exists. And not just for the halo therapy and the meditative moments, but for that community. I think it's that especially after the pandemic where we were so isolated and there was so little face-to-face quality conversations, there's something so special about being in a space where we all can be a little bit more woo-woo, we can be a little bit more weird, we can be a little bit more true to who we are, all for the sake of healing.
It's so nice to see that people will come from the North Shore and the Cape, and they meet here and they hug and they're so happy to spend this quality time. And they share it in this really special space. It's not just it's not just coming in for a halotherapy treatment. It's being surrounded by one huge warm hug of salt.
Raising Harts is a nonprofit community dedicated to supporting families with autistic children through inclusive programs and mentorship.
MCM sat down with the president and the vice president of the community to tell us how it functions and how it will fit into their new location.
Raising Harts is a nonprofit dedicated to providing support for families that have children with autism through mentorship, resources, education, and inclusive events for kiddos here on the South Shore.
We work to help support families that have neurodiverse children, more specifically autism, and we really want to help bring families together. We want to support siblings, and we want to support parents who are learning how to navigate this journey. So it's basically got started in my living room. I have twin boys that are now 7, Keaton and Grady, that are both on the spectrum, and they have a little sister named Isla who's 5. And honestly, I felt that there was a huge, there's a big gap between getting a diagnosis and actually receiving support from other families. And I felt like this was a very overwhelming journey to be going through, and then added with COVID and having us being so isolated, there was a really huge need to connect with other families going through the same thing. We have basically 3 pillars with Raising Harts. So the first one is that we're establishing a parent mentorship program. That's in the beginning stages right now, and what our goal with that is to really help match like parents that maybe have a newer child that's newly diagnosed with another parent that's a few years down the road that can kind of help take them under their wing and have someone to guide them. The second one is that we do inclusive events. So we try to bring families together. We try to bring kids into a safe space where they can be themselves and we can celebrate all their abilities. And we're establishing a place where siblings can come, friends can come, and it allows for both the neurodiverse world and the neurotypical world to be all in one space. And our third pillar is really being a resource and education for families. So we're going to be able to provide amazing workshops for parents to come in and really learn from other people that are in this field that have better expertise. And some of the things we're going to work on that we'll have lined up is holistic nutrition classes, beginning classes for AAC devices, which is an augmented communication device for younger, newer nonverbal children, helping to teach them all about the beginning stages of all communication. Honestly, whatever parents are needing, they don't need a diagnosis to come. They literally can show up and say, I don't know what I need, but I'm here for help. We don't really have a limit on age. Our goal is to, help parents that are navigating the journey with younger kids, but we also want this to be a really amazing, safe space for kids of all ages, whether they're 14 and they're learning to try to be more social and make friends, or maybe they're doing sensory play and they're 7 years old, but they need some social skills groups. And then we'll be dealing with some kids that honestly are getting speech lessons when they're here.
First of all, the older parents, they maybe have 18, 19, 20-year-olds say, I'm here to help you. And then they also say, where was this when I was, when my son or my daughter was really little? I could have used a partner. I could have used somebody that understood what I was going through. And then other parents say, thank you. Thank you for thinking of us, because, we don't know what we're doing. This is different for everyone. Autism is, it's a spectrum. It is different for everyone. So we are really excited. We are opening our location here in Hanover. It's going to be our hub where we can provide programs for parents, education, mentorship, so parents can come here and meet. And what's really unique and cool about this space is that it services the entire family, which supports our mission. Parents can receive services and education upstairs, and downstairs is our sensory gym, and we call it the hangout, where kids can come after school and really implement the tools that they learn in speech and OT with other kids that are like them. They can come, they can play video games, they can do puzzles, they can do their homework, and the parents can be here upstairs. Maybe they're just catching up on an email, maybe they're just sitting and having a coffee, maybe they're up here doing holistic food or a therapy for themselves, or maybe they're meeting with their mentor, but the children will be safe and supervised. One of the hardest things when you have a child with autism is being able to participate in the resources that are provided for you because you don't have anybody to watch your kid. It's really hard to find babysitters, so we eliminated that problem and said, bring the whole family here and we'll support you.
I think it brings a sense of belonging and a sense of hope. It brings their children happiness, which ultimately, when your child's happy and they feel like they belong and they're more regulated because of the things we're doing, the whole family benefits. I also think we're starting our sibling group that's been going on for the last few months, and it's going to be expanding. That's something that I'm so proud of. We have a lot of siblings that live a different life because their siblings have autism, and it's really important to kind of lift them up as well. And so being able to help dads, moms, siblings, and everyone on this journey, and that's what I think all families are deserving of.
Raising Harts fills a gap. There is a disconnect from diagnosis to services, and Raising Harts is filling that. There's a huge need here. I know on the South Shore, also globally, but here on the South Shore, there's nothing that parents can do in between getting a diagnosis and receiving services. So Raising Harts fills that gap. In addition to creating inclusion play and inclusion groups for children, we are supporting the entire family. And there's something unique about the South Shore in general. We are a very tight-knit community. We just need to be more inclusive, and that's where Raising Harts is binding that for this area.
For 17 years, the Molly Fitzgerald Memorial Fund has been promoting the arts and education by providing scholarships, supporting community service projects, and assisting in funding of school programs.
Both the founder and board members of the fund gave us insight about its founding, as well as what it brings to Marshfield.
The Molly Fitzgerald Memorial Fund was started in 2006, pretty much right after the date that my daughter Molly died, accidentally drowned in the family pool. And we were all just, as you can imagine, pretty devastated by everything that happened. And in the week after she died, I was at the house with a bunch of friends, and we were discussing how we could make something positive out of the tragedy. And we came up with starting the Molly Fitzgerald Memorial Fund with the idea that we would just do good things in Molly's memory.
Particularly, we give money and fulfill our missions by providing grants via scholarships, via sports grants for the schools. We built Dandelion Park, which is next to CVS. We have supported the Boys and Girls Club with the pavilion, with Molly's Kitchen. Really, our objective is to keep Molly's name alive and to honor her spirit of giving by providing the best we can for people in need and communities in need and programs in need in the town of Marshfield.
We're sitting in the middle of Dandelion Park in downtown Marshfield, and this is one of our biggest projects. It's our biggest ongoing project. This was a defunct gas station that was torn down, and we built it into a park that's been a real center for a lot of different activities. The Molly Walk is one of our biggest events, actually. We have hundreds of people show up for that. That's our big fundraiser, which is on Father's Day morning. The annual holiday tree lighting is big, and it's just great. People show up, singing Christmas carols, having hot chocolate, grabbing some Christmas treats. We do Stories in the Park, which is very popular here during the summertime. Our Halloween pumpkin carving. We provide the pumpkins. Last year, I think we went through 150 pumpkins, and people come in and carve them, and then we put them up in the racks up in the front of Dandelion Park and light them for the holidays.
I think my favorite part of the fund is really all of the activities that we do. I love coming by on a Tuesday night, and sometimes, you get so caught up in your day-to-day activities. I'll come up Webster because I'm going to run into CVS and pick a prescription up or something, and I remember, oh my God, I get time. I can go to Stories in the Park. To be able to come in here and see young families with their children sitting down and partaking in the reading of a couple of stories. Feedback is just tremendous. There's a segment of the population that knows Molly, but there's many more people that don't know her personally, but know Molly through the great work of the Molly Fund and through her parents, Kathy and Jimmy, and the great stuff, great things and the contributions that they make. But, people love the Molly Fund. They come out each and every year, rain or shine, to do the walk on Father's Day.
A lot of it's finding all the little ways to give back to the community along the way. Carolina Hill, which, as everybody knows, it's sort of a place for disadvantaged people. We take them to the fair every year. So there we get these thank you cards from Carolina Hill. And one of the things that was really moving was somebody said, nobody ever does this kind of stuff for us. So that's making that kind of difference. That's what it's all about. It's wonderful to make a difference. For all the kids that got scholarships, I still hear from some of them. I know what they're doing. I know what it means to them to have gotten the scholarship. It's really, and this all comes back to Marshfield. The Molly Fund wouldn't be what it is without the love and the generosity and the kindness of all the people in Marshfield. I mean, they really enable the Molly Fund to do what it does. And if it wasn't for the donations of all the people in town, big and little, if that wasn't there, then it would be a totally different thing.
I think that people really come out to support us because they appreciate the contributions that we've made in town. When people come out to walk with us on Father's Day, it is always with great spirit. And when you think about it, that people take the time on an important family day to start their day with us in order to support our endeavors, it says so much about what this fund means to this town. I think that what's unique about the Molly Fund is that we have survived all of the years that we have. Very often when a memorial fund is established after the untimely death or the tragic death of someone, it lasts for a few years and then fundraising efforts sizzle a bit. In our case, we have continued to grow our sponsorships, grow our contributions. We have been able to raise enough money to continue the Molly Fund really in perpetuity. And we greatly appreciate the support that the town of Marshfield has given to the Molly Fund so that we can in turn provide that support back into the community.
And I think that she would be overwhelmed if Molly was here today. She would be overwhelmed by the support of the community, by so many people coming out. And in her honor, I'm always overwhelmed by the support of the community for all of the great work that the Molly Fund does in Molly's name. Wherever I go, people will stop and they'll talk about, being at the Molly Park for the Christmas lighting, being here with their children and then their grandchildren now Some of them have young grandchildren, and they come here for the pumpkin carving, the lights, or for Santa Claus, or being able to take their kids or grandkids to see the movie, or just for this peaceful place.
I'd like to think that we have brought many people together that might not have had the chance to know each other. My board members started with a few close friends, and it's grown into friendships that'll last me a lifetime of people that I never knew. And I'd like to think that we're doing the same thing with other people that get involved in town, and that we're enabling people to do that in the organizations that they feel strongly about. And I think that's what you want to do as a community. And I want to keep that going. I want to make sure that we're there to be the glue that holds Marshfield together in our little piece of it. Certainly there's all these other groups that do this. Community Christmas is great, Sowing Seeds, Granite Live. All of these groups bring different disparate sections of Marshfield together and weld them into this community that's just the most amazing place to live. Jim Cantwell, I steal this from Jimmy all the time and give him credit for it, so I'm giving him credit, is we won the cosmic lottery when we all ended up in Marshfield. This is the best place to live, so we're just trying to make it better.
Leadership South Shore is a partnership program between the South Shore Bank and the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, founded to educate individuals who would provide transformative leadership in the community.
The program's leaders gave us insight into the curriculum and what impact it has on the South Shore.
Leadership South Shore is a program run by the South Shore Bank in conjunction with the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, where we take a group of leaders on the South Shore through a year-long immersive program to teach them, to expose them to different parts of the region that they may not already know.
I like to say it's not a training program for leaders. It is actually taking leaders, whether they've been leaders in their business for years or maybe new, but takes them out of their day-to-day and opens their eyes to different aspects of our region and our community. So it's an immersive program where we focus 6 program days, and we focus on a specific area with a specific theme. Hopefully in doing that, bring the members of the cohort to see our South Shore community from a different lens.
So Leadership South Shore was actually the brainchild of Jim Dunphy, who's the CEO of South Shore Bank. And Jim had participated in a similar type of program, a leadership program, when he was in New Hampshire. And he was interested in bringing it to Massachusetts. He was coming here as a bank president. He was new. And so we started a conversation because he knew I was interested and work with leaders on the South Shore and interested in leadership development as a whole. And then one thing led to another over a period of time and multiple discussions and talking to the chamber, whether or not they would like to be part of this, what the purpose of it is. So Jim's approach of having a program that would take leaders from the communities and help them visualize, well, I'm a leader, recognize themselves as leaders, and the type of impact they can have on community improvements, and putting their values in place in their communities and being able to bring in others. In other words, develop that influence piece.
So we look to explore different areas, different topics that we feel are important for emerging leaders to know about. Days are Education Day, Health and Human Services, Economic Development, Justice, and Arts and Culture. And we try to dive deep into each of those categories and go on full day trips where we would go to different areas or different businesses that specialize in that. And typically a day will end or start with a panel of experts on that topic. The days usually start early, about 8:45 in the morning, and we gather here at South Shore Bank. We all have a little coffee and a little time to connect and say hello and talk about the day's events ahead. Then we all hop on a bus together where a lot of great conversations happen. And typically we'll go on 1 or 2 different sites that is pertinent to the topic of the day. And we will spend some time going behind the scenes of those companies and taking tours and meeting their leadership and having the opportunity to ask questions and learn more about their operations and how it connects to the topic of the day. And typically the day will include a panel of experts specific to that topic day. That'll either be at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, or at the end of the day. I think some of Leadership South Shore's biggest achievements is the relationships that are built amongst the cohort. Over the years, we've heard many stories where the connections that they've made, either at the program site that they visited or a member in their cohort, has developed into good things for our community, collaborations between two organizations that might not have happened if these two people hadn't met, or awareness on areas like our South Shore Food Pantry, where one cohort member organized the rest of the cohort to spend a day there, building their garden up so they could provide food for the community.
It's an exciting objective, community leaders. We always think about leadership in terms of organizations, but we need to think more about leadership in terms of community, and that's the goal.
I've seen folks that toured a food pantry on Health and Human Services Day, and they never knew we really had a food insecurity issue in our area. Most people don't until they experience it firsthand, and so now that person is volunteering on a monthly basis and volunteering some time at a food pantry. So those are the type of things that I think come out of the program, is when someone's eyes are opened of what they can do. It's amazing to see what can happen with it.
So it's an eye-opener for most people. It's an eye-opener for me. I think it's an eye-opener for all of us who participate in some way to really recognize, we go about our day-to-day daily life and we tend to forget about things. Well, one of the goals of this program is to keep it in the forefront of people's minds. So there are things that go on between program days in order to make that happen. And in order to help the cohort build and sustain strong relationships, that keeps the program strong.
I think my favorite story right now is one of the members of our cohort last year was just amazed at what some neighboring communities were doing, things that she's been watching in her town, and said, I think I want to get involved in politics, and she's now running for mayor of Braintree. So it's really heartwarming to see the folks that take the program or what it has to offer and then put it into play in their life. I really think that this program brings a new group of informed leaders that aren't necessarily just thinking of themselves and their particular company, but looking at it for how we can work together to be successful. Right? So I'm successful and I help you and you're successful, and it's how we all kind of rise up a little. When everyone takes ownership in their community and how we can work together to make it better. And I really think that's what the program brings. It's exposing some folks to new ideas and new connections, new collaborations, and all with the greater purpose of making this a better community.
This concludes this month's edition of Beyond Ocean, Maine. Tune in next month. I'm Robert Goidas.
And I'm Ivana Osborne.
Thank you very much for watching.